Who would like to be the note taker? Oh for 1. Note takers, who wants to be a note taker? This flight cannot take off without a note taker. I know no one wants to be a note taker, but we still really need a note taker. And Greg gets when Greg arrives, he will be progressively more aggressive in his note taking assignment. What's that? No, but others can take for you. That's okay. And we need a Jabber scribe as well. That's an easy way, right? Who wants to be the Jabber scribe? It's usually easy. Looking up line. Oh.
I'll Jabber.
Okay. Wow, we have 2 Jabber scribes. But Warren, you get to be here. You looked up first. But note taker, Jake, can I guess you? Can I assume you were semi-volunteering for note taking for everything except when you're talking? What's that? Okay. Unless Turles, did you want to be the note taker? You're an exceptional note taker, and you just walked in the room.
If you can upload my slide.
I did upload your slides. Then you're the note taker. All right. Jake, you're off the hook. Unless you really want it.
Proper punishment for you.
Yeah, proper punish. Jake, I don't want to punish Jake for showing up on time. We're getting here early.
Would have been scheduled accordingly had it not Friday. That's kind of how it works, right? It's like, I'm sorry, why is he getting tipped this week? I'm going to be improv last week. Who's is this?
That's me.
Are you shit? That's your phone?
Yes.
Did Juniper pay you? Yeah. Just see that thing. Yeah, I thought it was either someone's picked it out of the garbage and threw it on here, or that's.
It's on my to-do list. I was waiting for this trip to
Not there's anything wrong with having a really shitty phone. That's so good. Was that yours?
This is me. I don't know. This is projecting, right?
Yes, it is. So the tip here is
You know, like
the default page you should be in has a list, and there's an icon there. Reload this. Because the icon will come up to show like one of those would be like materials. This one of these is open materials. It's a video. Because you get a link with all the docs, and then you can open them up. I open them up as tabs all the way across. I just step through the track. I have faith in you.
Okay, there we go.
We have single blue sheet in
Yes.
here. You're capable of like cooperating across the aisle and doing a single blue sheet.
You bet that, right?
It's only has to send one sheet out. Thousands can come back. I kept on sending blue sheets.
Come back replicating.
There we go. Now we're getting there.
It is time. Let me shut the door.
All right, now you're all locked in. Okay, so welcome to MBone D. There we go. Here is our agenda. Would anyone like may bash the agenda now? Okay. All right. In terms of active working group documents, pretty much all of them are going to be spoken of today. So since Bangkok, we adopted the Dryad draft. Jake's going to provide updates on that. The deploy data center deploy draft has been around for a while. That may be ready for last call. I suspect Mike is going to ask for something like that, but he's going to provide updates. There is the Wi-Fi draft. Charlie's going to present on that. Charlie is, I know he is very interested in working group last call, though we did get some interesting feedback this week on that. There's the deprecate ASM draft for interdomain. We do feel like this is likely for ready for a working group last call, but Torless is going to provide an update on that. And there's the Yang draft. Sandy, do you want to have any thoughts? What's the latest on that draft?
Sandy Zhang, ZTE. I'd like to ask more review for this draft and look for more comments on it.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So, yeah, we'd love more review and comments on that Yang models draft. Other documents, this wasn't adopted, but it's in there, hasn't expired yet. The AMBI draft. Jake, do you have anything you want to say about this draft?
Jake Holland, yeah, sure. This is going to come up again. I encourage people to take a look at it. It's going to be important, and I'm going to be trying to make a viable triad and implementation for like browsers of a web UI, and this is going to be a critical piece of it, as I understand it, because the browser has to have authentication in order to accept it, and so there is some question as to whether this will come through MBoneD, but it's going to require some review by multicast knowledgeable people, I think. So please consider taking a look at it if you can, and I'll try to put an update. I'm going to try and make an implementation of it as well. But this will come up again in Montreal, I hope, unless, barring restructuring and such.
All right, excellent foreshadowing. You be ready. Oh, wait, what happened? The Notewell slide. What happened to that? That was up there. It went by so fast. I put them together and yes. All right. Forget everything you said. We're going to have to start over now. Would anyone like me to read the Notewell? I can do it if you'd like. Twice? Okay, yeah. All right. Please note it well. So, yeah. When I hit the button, it went
I hit the button twice, apparently. All right. So let's start again. No. All right. Let's go back to who's up first. That would be Charlie. Oh my.
Blues? Anyone not signed blues?
Hold on. Let's see here.
Well, good morning. I'm Charlie Perkins, and I'm one of the co-authors of this draft about what goes wrong when you use multicast over 802 IEEE 802 wireless media. And I had made update to the draft after IETF 103, and that got posted in December. So basically, that was sort of a maintenance release and mostly editorial sort of comments. As you can see here, there's not any deep technical additions to the draft, but it was much improved anyway. So I guess I don't have to go through too much in detail on that, but there was some inconsistency, in particular using STA is more the IEEE 802 wireless terminology, so I put that in instead of client and so on. So the more interesting stuff happened just as a matter of a few days ago. In fact, up until early this morning, I was just going to make a verbal update, but Jake sent me some email about how there are commercial Wi-Fi solutions that do a better job than what we had described in the draft. And you can see what it says here, tracks of members of the group and I guess the local attachment to an access point, and figure out the appropriate rate that's necessary to reach each one of those. So I could maybe perhaps characterize this as a tiered approach instead of using the least common denominator to send a packet out to the subscribers in the local group of devices attached to an access point. The access point does a certain amount of record keeping to figure out how to more efficiently send this packets out there to the receivers. Now, I think this actually deserves some more discussion to see, for instance, if you're sending it out at the most weakest tier, well, that's still going to interfere a lot with all the other devices that are in that area. So it's not by any means a panacea, but nevertheless, it certainly deserves, I think, mention in the draft. And so I'd like to request text, get suggestions about that. Yes.
Greg, Cisco. I've been following this thread too. And Jake and I talked a little bit as well. When he says Wi-Fi solutions, commercial Wi-Fi solutions, is he talking about APs? Is he talking about NICs?
My understanding is that you can buy products that do this. And,
well, again, which product? The phone, the AP, the PC? I mean,
right. Okay. Well, please.
Jay Collin, my understanding is this refers to APs that are, watching IGMP and making choices like this more appropriately.
Do we have someone taking minutes, by the way?
I'm trying to take minutes as long as I'm not standing here.
Okay, just be sure not to write down any of your comments, okay?
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
See, that wasn't being recorded. It was perfect timing.
I'm not taking minutes.
Yeah, so didn't the draft have the kind of, conversion into unicast already? So the primary new thing here seems to be a little bit of logic of not doing it at higher rates, right? Or was the other stuff not in the draft in there before? Because I think that was long known, right? Cisco, I think, was one of the first companies to do that 100 years ago.
Right. Okay, well, we can rat hole what he's talking about a solution. My concern was that when we first met to discuss this was actually last Prague. It was, this has come up and down over time, but we sat down, and for the first time, I sat with engineers from Apple. I think you were there, right? And Google, and they were talking about a whole different problem that we weren't thinking about. Basically, the fact that these things had to listen all the time and kill in battery power. What the AP does in this case didn't solve this problem. So there's a whole like almost siloed problems we're facing, and I think when we make sure that because you fixed one, we didn't solve everything. We may have fixed one piece that we're most concerned with, but not necessarily what the vendors are concerned with.
Right,
Mike and name.
But I'm at the queue, so I'm gonna jump in. So,
Hi, Mike. Who are you with?
Mike McBride, Huawei. So, as Torlis alluded to, we do in this draft mention non-standard solutions like multicast, unicast, something that Cisco's done for many, many years, and probably others. So, my suggestion here would be to just. I was originally just thinking, let's just not deal with this because we just need to be done with this draft. But it probably would be worth at least mentioning this, not getting into a whole 2-page discussion about it. But
Right.
yeah,
So,
maybe so. Yeah, and then be done.
well, I got email back from David Lamparter. Is David here? No. Okay. Well, he said the product was from Aruba, and so I asked for citation because if I'm going to include the text, it'd be nice for people to follow up a little bit. On the other hand, I don't want it to turn into a product advertisement. Right? So I'm still not quite sure what to do about that, but presumably the situation will clarify, and I can make a modification to the draft.
Michael
Michael.
Abrams. So I think the important thing now is to get this document. It doesn't need to be perfect and mention all the nooks and crannies everywhere. I still think we have a problem, and I would like to proceed on solutions instead of working on the problem statement. So can we please just say it enough? We point out there is a problem. Might be some mitigations. Not everybody's doing it. So I think that's the important thing. There's like a lot of ifs and buts, and some are blah, blah, blah. But generally, I don't think this is done. And unless someone proves me wrong, that's still my belief.
I'd like to register my complete agreement with that statement.
Well, it's too late.
No, and I was also talking to Niels, and basically also, as Mikael said, this is not ubiquitous. You buy an access point, even something in the home space that is well known, and it doesn't do this. So basically,
Well, but Torlis, now we're talking about solutions again. I think the point I think the point of the document is to focus on the problem statement so we can articulate that, move it forward, and then people start working on solutions. I don't think we need to spend time in the document on what the various solutions are and get into the nits of them and where they're available.
I'd like to agree with Torlis that we should address the deployment problem that exists today in spite of the possibility of solution.
This is Greg again. How's that different than the problem statement? What's missing that we're not articulating? Just help me understand.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. I just want to make the point that just because the solution does exist in general, we need to say that it is not widely deployed in some sense.
It's still a problem. Yeah.
I think the deployment problem even more so is in many cases you have no idea what freakish vendor special multicast may be in there or not. So the results are all over the place, and you don't even know why you can't compare them.
Okay, well, hopefully some of these comments are in the minutes, so when David asks about what happened, we can point into that. So I think I have a good idea of please, Mike, go ahead.
You said you were not being recorded. This will end up on YouTube. Just so that everybody knows. This is recorded. It'll end up on YouTube. You can watch it there if you want to hear what everybody was saying.
No pressure. Okay. The other comment was from John Commissar. Is Jan here? So basically, he sent some good comments about the draft, amazing editorial problems that hadn't been fixed yet, and mentioned a couple of possible additions to the draft. One is to get away from stateless auto configuration to use DHCP because you cut down on the number of multicasts. I only mention this. I'm not so sure it's not, I don't by any means think it's a complete solution, but it is at least possibly worthy of mention, especially if this is a commonly used technique in the world.
Please, Michael here again. Please, God, no, don't put that in the draft.
Okay.
That is a huge rat hole. You're going to get 6-man V6 ops people on your back. God, no, please don't.
Okay. Point noted. And then the other possibility is to mention unicast-based service discovery protocols. And I have a little soft spot in my heart for this because we did one a long time ago and it worked pretty well, but nobody used it. So I could possibly insert a couple of sentences about this, but yes, please comment.
Kyle Rose Akamai. I'm going to disagree with that point about not putting Slack to DHCP v6 in the draft. I think you should mention it, but then mention security consideration or privacy considerations involved, because it is an effective mitigation potentially for keeping the radio on all the time. So.
Kyle, could I ask you to
Michael Abrahamson,
send a
can we
paragraph
keep
or a
this?
few sentences of text that we can make on the list? That way it would reflect what you're saying and we can have a little discussion.
Can we keep
right.
this a problem statement?
Yes.
And keep the proposed solutions out of it? Because
Correct.
as soon as we talk about proposed solutions, it's a completely new rat hole and everybody will have opinions.
Right.
Can we just agree on the problems first?
Okay, so that means
I retract. Yeah, you're right. We should just focus on the problems.
so that also applies to the DNS stuff.
That's true, Mike
Okay.
McBride. But we do have proposed solutions in the draft today. We have some proposed workarounds. So do we need to?
Really? Okay. Well, that was
That would be a pretty big change. It's,
Well,
I
Warren
think it's
made a lot
useful
of
as
effort
a
on that.
MBO and practice document to at least mention some workarounds that exist today. I think that's
Yeah, but
important.
those are operational workarounds and not you might say protocol things.
So I would say I'd be happy to have everything taken out. That kind of goes beyond the problem statement. If I have a clear understanding that we have a good plan to bring them back into an appropriate document fairly soon so that we don't lose it, right? So what would be that plan, I think?
That sounds like a volunteer.
So save as.
Well,
Cut
when
and
it comes to
paste.
slashing text out, I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Still, you can do a copy and paste instead of a cut and paste.
So, Oren Kamari, Google, kind of following on from something Charlie said. What we currently have is some sort of workarounds, which are operational changes suggested in the document. They're not really protocol changes. I don't know if we want to leave that sort of stuff in or just rip it all out or what. Some of them aren't really fixes. They're just, if you're having this problem, you can work around it for now by turning the following 7 knobs. Who knows this?
So, one more time.
Okay, Michael here again. So just looking quickly through here, this I agree with that. It's not proposing stop using one protocol or something. It's like partial mitigation and documented things that people are already doing. So I think leave it at that. I think the document is in pretty good shape. I think we should just try to ship it.
Yeah, Jake Holland again on the mitigations point. I believe last time we talked a little bit about AMT as a possible mitigation.
Right.
You asked for text, and I sent it to you, and I did not see it in the latest draft, if I'm not mistaken.
I got subsequent email from you that you essentially told me that you changed your mind about including it. I thought I'm going to
really. Shit,
I'll find that and forward it to you.
I may have to change my mind again. I'm not sure.
Okay, well,
but
you're
I've
allowed,
got it.
so.
Okay.
Somebody hacked your email.
Well, so these are the possible next steps. We'll probably get more reviewer comments after the next submission, but new reviews are more than welcome and much appreciated, and hopefully we can proceed to last call soon.
So this is great. So I guess you'll address these last few comments when you think it's ready. Then send request working group last call. What is the plan for the next step? The solutions. Was that going to be in this working group or elsewhere? Did we decide that this is the working group that?
We never discussed any plan as far as I remember.
Yeah, from chair to chair. It's in our charter that we don't create solutions here. We don't do protocol work. That doesn't mean the ideas can't come from here. It doesn't mean the drafts can't come from here. But when they go live somewhere, it goes to a working group that actually solves problems. We just point out problems and cry.
Well, we
Here,
solve
that's-
some problems,
oh.
but not protocols.
Yeah, there we go. We can identify the problem. We can identify solutions here, but the work gets adopted in a different group.
AMT?
Pardon me?
AMT?
Those are letters. What's your point?
Actually, it says transition. So it's routing protocols we don't do. Transition protocols we do. I don't think this fits into that one.
Good distinction.
Right. So Michael
Yes.
Abrams, so there has been a problem statement going on work here. Has there been any progression in the IEEE in the past 1 or 2 years on this topic, or they just
Basically,
shrugged and did nothing, or what happened?
My understanding is that there's been some more deployment for, I believe, DMT, but I'm not aware. Well, first of all, I'm in 802.15, which is logically separate from .11. And so I don't know all the stuff that goes on there, but I try to pay attention anyway, and I don't remember any additional multicast work going on.
Okay.
Yeah, that does bring up a good point. We do specify some protocols and tools related to transitions and operational troubleshooting, things of that nature, like mtrace, AMT, protocol, routing protocol, group membership protocol, things like IGMP, MLD, protocols of that in PIM. Those go in the other working groups, like PIM.
And we can make recommendations to IEEE as well. I mean, we have IEEE IETF Coordination Committee, and this draft is on their radar as well.
Right. Michael Abrams again. So I would like this, shipped. And then I think we need to go to the IAB or something, because this is way, way bigger than this group. I mean, this touches, if the decision is, IEEE or the IETF, is the IEEE is not doing much. So then the logical conclusion is the IETF needs to use less multicast. And this is now all over the place, because there's a lot of assumption here that you're deploying into a 10-base-2 kind of network. That's what a lot of the protocols here think that they're doing. And if we decide that this is not working on Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi is eating everything else,
yeah,
we need to change. And now I think it's IAB and so on up there.
It's not just Wi-Fi. I mean, if you're using it on the same subnet with some wired segments, it bleeds back into the wired segments as well.
Someone needs to have a strategic discussion on where to go. This changes a lot of things. So that's way bigger than this.
So I'm with Michael.
Hi, Mike.
This is Mike McBride, and I'm in agreement with Michael Abrams. I don't think we've I wanted to see if we can resolve it right now, because if we wait till, I don't want to wait till Montreal. So are we in agreement that you'll add a line or two about what was just discussed with that Jake brought up in the list, and then we're done? Or do we not even include that? And just be done right now?
If there's really going to be this great disagreement with Six-Man about Slack versus DHCP, I'd rather not go there.
So it sounds like we're going to be asking for working group last call right now.
Yeah.
Wasn't there comments from David's? Yeah.
David.
What will the rev be?
Craig is chair. We've already mentioned some things that had to be changed. It's pretty minor, some stuff that Jake wanted in there. And so I just want to make sure we do that rev. See what the discussion is like on the list. If people agrees that it went as planned, then we can do a working group last call.
I've already prepared version 5, but I did not include this. I just made the changes, the editorial updates that were made. So I almost posted that, but then I thought it'd be better to wait till after this morning.
So we'll add just a few lines on this, and then we're done? Is that the idea?
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's all you got me to do. Well,
okay.
Then to the list. So who actually, Mike, the proper way to do this as a working group chair yourself, who's read the draft in its current form? Okay, who thinks that we're close enough? The revs, the notes will make it ready for working group last call. front of a same set of hands. I'm going to read it. This is not commitment. We're not going to hold you to it. Let the minutes reflect that there's room support in the direction it's taking, and we'll review again to the list when the draft is read.
Okay.
Revit, send the Revit, include the details of what you added, and request working group last call on that email, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds great. And I'll include the changes section so people can see.
Great.
Right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Warren Kumari, and I obviously shouldn't have to say this, but I will anyway. I'm the AD for this, so some other AD would be progressing the mechanics, blah, blah, blah. Just
Oh.
I hate tall people, especially in Prague. Hopefully. All right, so this is a document that is intended to be a practice and deployment draft coming out of MBOND, something that's in our charter. It's giving it a review of multicast in the data center. It's something that we've presented for a few years now. There was a year or two gap in there with we kind of lost interest, and I had some other things that I was working on besides IETF. The last year, Femi from Arista and I have been working on this draft. We think it's ready to be published. We have given a decent overview of multicast use in an honest way in the data center. We did include a few things of forward-looking things like what's happening within segment routing and multicast, things that may not be happening today, but just kind of giving an idea of some of the things that we're working on in the ITF. So again, this is a practice and deployment draft, fairly innocuous, and we would like to seek for working group last call. Maybe I should ask if there's any comments before we do that.
Who's read the draft in its more recent incarnation? Okay. Of those who've read it, and of those who haven't, who thinks it's ready for working group last call? Yeah.
Stig Venas. So I'm wondering what the intended status is or the purpose. Is it like a BCP or is it something else?
Informational.
It's informational practice and deployment draft. I think that's the actual wording that's in our MBOND charter,
Okay.
is that we're supposed to be coming out with these drafts that are informational, not best current practice, just telling you where multicast is being used today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking because parts of the document I think is sort of like a BCP, what people are doing today. But it's also some parts that are like newer stuff, that is more experimental and maybe not really used today.
That's right. That's true.
But yeah, if it's just informational, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm typing. It's Jake. I'm typing up a couple of editorial suggestions.
Okay.
There's a few, just nits, but I think it's mostly fine.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time to do that. So once I receive those editorial comments, we'll make those changes. We'll include you in the thank yous. And then on the list, instead of waiting for Montreal, we'll request that you guys do a working group last call.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mike and name?
We will not wait till Montreal.
He just said he won't do that.
We'll do it on the list sometime in the next couple weeks. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Orlis, you are up next.
You see this guy? He has no tour.
Jake, do you think you could take notes now while Torlis is up, and then send them to Torlis, or actually send them to us, and we'll. That's even better.
Okay, so this document has been going on for quite a while. I think we went through a couple of great iterations. And so the last one, ready, next slide. is just having editorial edits. So for the ones who don't remember what this was about, this is supposed to be a BCP outlining why and where and how to use SSM and not ASM for interdomain deployments, with the goal of trying to retire ASM as an interdomain multicast solutions. The specific editing that we did was just in section 4.2 and 4.3, just clarifying the verbiage about the support of IGMPv3 and MLDV support in terms of the requirement for using SSM and not just ASM. So I think we really are close to being finished with it. So I think we would like to do a working group last call for it, unless somebody stands up and has major concerns about that. But I think we finished all the feedback that we've gotten over the time on the list.
Oh, I thought you were making me do that. Okay. Apparently we're drawing straws. That's all right. So who's read the draft in its current form? All right. We got 4. Who thinks is ready for a working group last call? Current form. All right. That's some solid support, though. Okay, great. Let's let the note show that we... Hey, Torlis, when you take your minutes, let the minute show that we saw support in the room, and we'll take it to the list.
Okay. Can I just stand here for the next one?
Yeah, just keep standing there. We'll tell you when you're ready to talk again.
Okay.
In the meantime, if there's folks who have walked in and haven't signed the blue sheets, please do.
Blues?
We handle the blues.
Hit the present button and talk. Let's talk.
Right. So So actually, would be good to bring up the draft. I just posted it. So basically, next slide. So no,
Doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. No, you don't. Yes.
Oh, what? Really? No.
It's directional.
I have a comment on this, Stigvanas. So I see that you already had the name of the draft as like a PIM working group document.
No, so yeah, we were in the two week window, so we couldn't publish it. I completely got backlogged, so I was doing in the morning. Don't post that one that has -IETF-PIM. I posted one under Eckert PIM right now. Once we go through the official working group, which is PIM,
right?
Basically, we can do another ref of it.
Yeah,
right,
so
under
at least
PIM.
The draft mentioned in the slides.
Yeah. These
not
slides are
posted
still
yet,
wrong. The ones
so-
I sent you for PIM are better because I was trying to give 1 hour before. Oh, sorry, I was very backlogged. Right. So just a reminder for the process for the ones who haven't followed it. So we started to discussing how we can get to conclusions of revisiting the status of the IETF, IGMP, and MLD documents, where basically the only full internet standard is the 91 IGMP version 1 document. Everything else is at best proposed standard or so. So, I mean, kind of adoption of newer versions of this actually has shown to be difficult when, customers and implementers see that status. So how do we go forward with this? Well, the typical process with which we are trying to prove that, the newer stuff actually is adopted and can progress in status is creating a questionnaire so that we know what the industry is doing. That's what we started around IETF 103. So we had created a working kind of a small team, and those were all the folks on the first slide that contributed very actively to the kind of irregular but quite a few meetings here that we had. So I think a very wide range of people involved. I think that helped us a lot to also come up with the right questions. And so then this would be the target draft name right now. I just send it up to Data Tracker under my name. And the idea would be to have, I think, officially the PIM working group, right? So this is just informational showing here in MBOND. Of course, operational feedback is equally important as from the actual protocol group. Approve the questionnaire as good to be sent out, right? I don't think that we want to publish the questionnaire as an RFC, but that's a decision to be made by PIM working group. And then basically have, the working group chairs. That's what the draft says, or working group members find appropriate places to disseminate it through the industry. And then have, hopefully, Tim do the same role that he did for the same type of questionnaire for the PIM protocol, collect anonymously the feedback and create statistics, and that statistics would then be taken to continue further with the process. So typically that would be written up as a draft, and then appropriate conclusions about, the change of the status of the IGMP and MLD documents would occur. Next slide. So can you just try to see if you can get up on any thing? It's called Draft Eckert PIM IGMP MLD base 00. If we can just quickly go through, because pretty much yada, 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 and then 10 questions. Yeah, on any screen here.
Copy. Just
and just go to data tracker and look for Draft Eckert PIM. That would be the only one.
While we are waiting, so PIM is meeting in this room right after lunch, so I hope people will come there so we can discuss it
And
further.
because we're also doing this in PIM, right? Check the time, so because we should spend all the time on anything else, but this is
animal stable connectivity. Interesting.
no. You go to data tracker. Just go to data tracker and do in search Draft Eckert PIM, because it was posted just an hour ago. So Draft Eckert PIM. Was finding it for me. Search, click.
Waiting for data tracker.
Oh yeah. IETF Guru Network Meditation.
Yeah.
But this is unicast, right? So it should work, right? For the Wi-Fi.
That was an Amiga reference.
What?
Guru meditation, remember?
Oh, Guru Meditation. Oh, yeah. I don't even remember my knees anymore.
You didn't know where it came from.
Yeah. No, it's once you mention it, right? So, if you can go down, I think we can skip the yada yada. After the IETF yada yada, there's basically the yada yada for the people who are meant to read it in terms of, why we're doing this. But I think, for timeliness, and this is basically the intended audience operators. So we started first trying to create different questions for different audiences, which would have made it easier, but would have created so many questions. So we're trying to basically keep it somewhat pithy. So 3.1, go down. All right, who are you? Why are you? And if not, so when? So, and then basically here, it's, go up again, back here, implementation status, right? So this is basically what we're really interested in, because ultimately the status depends on, showing some good amount of adoption. So IGMP v1, v2, v3, then also the lightweight IGMP v3. I think that's going to be very interesting as well. MLD v1, MLD v2, Lightwell MLD v2. And then basically, so we're trying to stay here a little bit open-ended, which is kind of a little bit dangerous, but it was so easy to come up with so many crazy detailed things. So I would think if customers, don't know about the details, they wouldn't answer something that might not be too bad either, right? Stig?
Yeah, Stig Venas. We can maybe discuss this more in PIM, of course, but I'm a little worried that people will see which IGMP version 3 features, and they will be like, oh, what's the feature? Or
Right.
So maybe it would be good to, somewhere call out these are the features in IGMP v3 and MLD v2.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe just as a list, as an explanatory candidate list. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, and then implementation perspectives. What features has been deliberately omitted from IGMP or IGMP v2 implementations? So this is, really just for implementers. Which ambiguities or inconsistencies, right, made the implementation challenging? and what suggestion would you make to the PIM working group as it seeks to update these documents. So, and then for the network operators, go down, 3.2, go down, deployment status. So this is pretty much duplication, just substitute implement with deploy, so that we still felt that was sufficiently, simple and good for us to.
Stig again. I see number 4 there. It says implemented instead of
right. So
deployed.
Some global substitute failed on that one. Good. So then deployment specifics, right? So here's the same one. So the exclude mode obviously is the primary thing we're interested in. But if you can think of any other specific features we may want to mention here, that would be good to know. Right. The most important one is number 3, right? Does your network rely on fallback mechanisms between different IGMP versions? Right.
Stig again. So at least one feature I'm curious about is using Unicast for sending reports. The RFCs require that, I believe, but I'm not sure if people actually rely on it.
This would rather go into the implementer section, right? I think the operators have no clue, right?
Possibly.
I wouldn't know any config on any host to do something like that, right?
Right. At least it's something I would be interested in knowing about, because there's some security concerns about doing Unicast and
well, please remember your comments so that we're not kind of only depending on Jake.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to forget this stuff. Yeah. Okay. So I think deployment specific should be their perspective. Then strengths, weaknesses. How many points would you give, right? So, but we wanted to try to have a little bit open-ended to give operators also the ability to ramble along, and typically there will be interesting stuff in there. Okay, further down, I think that should be pretty much it. Yep.
A clever way to get people to read your draft.
Yeah.
Michael Abramson. So I don't know where to find the people who can answer this in different places. That's going to be interesting.
Well, Internet 2 is always our typical, starting point. I'm not sure about Europe RIPE. If you could dare, I mean, RIPE is more like registries and that stuff. So operators, Erin, let's see, what is the, so operator mailing list, right? So implementers, I think it would be IETF, right? Would send it to some IETF mailing lists.
Non-Arkansas might work, those kind of mailings. I just had one thing that I happened to. So I required MLD v2, and then they only supported StarComma-G join on MLD v2. So they fulfilled the letter of the requirement, but not the intention of why I wanted source specific to be supported. Would that be captured here?
So you're saying the implementation or the application?
What he's saying is somebody could say, yes, I supported MLD v2, but they didn't support all of it. They just supported StarComma-G, not S-G. So
I think you're talking about stupid IPTV applications that weren't sending IGMP v3 source, group include reports, so you couldn't use SSM.
Right.
So
what I really wanted to use was SSM and not have an RP, but I specified the wrong thing, and I had
so
they checkboxed me because I asked the wrong thing.
But isn't that? I mean, that's not optional, is it? I thought source included reports are mandatory.
All the IGMP implementation of those set-top boxes, because I've been living through the same pain, of course, did support full IGMP v3, but the application wasn't using SSM.
Right.
So now here's the problem a little bit, that we try to focus this questionnaire on the actual, IETF standards as opposed to the actual deployment stuff, which is why it's in PIM and not an MBOND. So this is a little bit more like an MBOND typical question.
So then they said, oh, we've solved the problem. Here you have a configuration file for the S part, and I was like, okay, but I have two different sources, and I have a bunch of groups here and a bunch of groups here, and they're like, oh, we only implemented a single source configuration line. So anything that it would join, it would just provide the same S. So they checkboxed me again. So okay, so we'll skip that part. I'm just
So Torlis, you are presenting. This is going to be a PIM working group draft document, and you're just letting us know about it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I would also chime in as something which is not
Dual homing.
Yeah, sorry, just running because I wanted to take notes to not forget. Because I also think it's important. It's not directly in scope really for this, but if we can get another section, application consideration, and put this in there, maybe that would be a way to clearly separate it.
Great.
Yeah. Michael, I just wanted a therapeutic session about my war PSD problems in trying to get this to work. I don't know if there is any way we can capture this or help people to, require the right things so that they don't get screwed.
You can repeat your same comments in the next working group here in PIM, and
I'll do to the
each
list.
time it will feel better.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you.
I'm Charlie Perkins. I just have a simple comment, which is if the questionnaire is long, you'll get few responses. If the questionnaire is short, you'll get more responses. So you should pick out your top 4 features, and then you can have one at the end. If you're interested in more detailed interaction with IETF, please contact. So,
yeah, I think at this point in time, it would be hard to cut further down given how we're trying to figure out the status of implementation of the different versions. And the only thing that we added was basically this exclude mode to distinguish whether we could actually promote the lightweight version as the sufficient fault standard and not actually IGMPv3 and MLDV2, but their constrained version, right? So I think we already are trying to stay very focused on, unfortunately, it's already 5 or 6 questions, but
yeah, the list of RFCs is fine, but when you get into listing of, most RFCs, you could make 2 pages of features if you wanted to.
Can I suggest
it's small.
continuing this discussion in the next working group? Sure. All right, Jake, come on down.
Hey. Yep. I'm Jake. I'm going to give you an update on Dryad. Next slide. Okay.
No, this one. It works for this deck. Here we go.
Excellent. All right. So I brought up a proof of concept. I had that kind of running last in Bangkok. There's been a few minor refinements, but it's still been running since November. It's reasonably stable. It's still doing the same PCAP thing. Yeah. Try it. I cleaned this up a little bit, so it's a little bit better. There was a thing I forgot to mention, the crash in PIMD in FRR that there's a patch upstreaming hopefully at some point, but yeah. The draft is cleaned up. The RO type is assigned. I think I've addressed all the pending review comments and TBDs. I have deployed to global reverse DNS zones. You can type this on your laptop now, and you will see records that have this type 260 field in it that point to some of my AMT relays. At the Hackathon 104, I found out a new thing, and I'm going to be updating the draft slightly. So I'll go over a little bit of what I found out and explain my plan on that. I was hoping to ask for a last call now. Now I want to wait until after I've updated it, but then ask for a last call. So I'm hoping that I can go over that. So what I did at this hackathon is down in the bottom corner here. The rest of this is basically the same as what was running before. I combined the ingest router with the border router so that the border router is running AMT and doing DNS off of the same PIM join, but I added then on the bottom of the access router, instead of directly connecting to the access router, I have a home router, which is doing the same DHCP. From there, I have devices underneath. So the draft goes over how to do the local discovery, and this is the part where I was relying on DNS-SD. So over Wi-Fi, I was running an AMT gateway that connects to an AMT relay, which is inside the home router. And what I did is I used DNS-SD, and this was the activity at the hackathon. I added DNS-SD service discovery or service registration to the AMT relay, and I was verifying with the tools that do DNS-SD that they can be discovered. The thing I found out is that it relies on MDNS and uses just the one-hop local behavior. It does have support for a concept of like within a search domain, but there wasn't a search domain coming by default out of my home router. And so I think in practice for deployment, it's going to rely on the MDNS portion of this, which is fine-ish. But it meant that my AMT gateway happened to be running inside a VM that was NATed, and so I couldn't reach the thing. And so I'm still finishing that proof of concept as far as being directly connected with a join library. But I do believe, based on the DNSSD discovery program that is built into Apple and deployed everywhere already, that that thing will function when I put in the library support for it. So the interesting part is that because the DNSSD discovery is broken, there was another different kind of local relay that I was hoping to support discovery with DNSSD, and I think now that it's not going to work because the access router cannot push into the home router a search domain that gets propagated to the home in general in deployment. It is possible to coerce a home router into doing that, but the default home router configuration does not tend to support it. Charles.
So, and I'm trying to remember that you may ask Ralph Dromes, but in the cable space, for the cable space, we defined in the IETF some RFC, which was basically a from the CMTS to the home gateway, kind of a DHCP package that was basically carrying DHCP options to go further down, right? And if basically that discovery is, for example, including something like DNS server, so then in the cable space, there might be a way to get these things through. That's the only thing coming to mind.
Yes, I agree. That is there. And I agree. I'm pretty sure it's possible to do something to the home router so that you can probably get it to happen. What I believe to be the case based on just an informal poll and the examination of the default configuration on the home router that I brought is that by default, it is not happening at present.
Did you have any cable router connected to a cable network?
Oh, it was not connected to a cable network. No, this was I was running my own DHCP on a Ethernet. Yeah. So there might be cases where it does work, but my claim is that there might be cases where it does not work also. Now for cable, I think this is actually less important than for like DSLAM.
Okay.
And so if there's anything specific to that, then we can go over it. But I was about to explain the change that I propose to make a difference. And I think it might not matter well, let me explain the change, and then you can tell me whether you think it's still a concern that you have that there do exist some deployments that might propagate that. Okay. So what I think needs to happen is when the ISP wishes to operate an AMT relay that can be discovered by devices in the home that are over Wi-Fi, right? They're going to try and discover it to avoid all our MCAS over 802 problems, right? But I'm presuming at this point that they cannot reliably do so with DNSSD when it's over the top of the home router. Therefore, the current draft says do DNSSD, then do Dryad, then do the well-known Anycast address from the AMT spec. I want to change the order on that so that first I do DNSSD, then I prefer the Anycast address, and you should put your Anycast address on that thing when you want to be discovered by devices in your network, and then do Dryad. Make sense? Any objections to this? So I intend to update that draft and then to ask for a last call.
Right. So there is no double use of the same Anycast address in the solution?
That depends. If you believe the Anycast addresses for that global address are out there on the internet to be discovered, then there sort of is. You're going to discover this one instead of that one when it's out there.
Right. I'm mostly worried about the fact when this access router, is trying to do AMT, but you don't have PIM, and that guy would also have an AMT relay and trying to reach the Anycast address, but unfortunately, it also owns the Anycast address itself, so it can't. So this is kind of
yeah. So I sort of agree. So I think that there is a theoretically possible issue. I don't think in practice it's probably likely to be a big issue. And if it is, then I think maybe we can like look into defining .2 to mean that or something instead of .1. But
if they're in the same provider space, it's fairly easy, right? The AMT relay here would use an AMT tunnel, but it couldn't use the Anycast address, but it would need to use the unicast addresses. That's kind of exactly what we did in MSDP.
I'm not sure I understood that. Okay. All right. Yes. Please send me a comment. Make sure I can get it, and tell me if this solution isn't going to work, because I'm going to try and update this and make it go. So yeah, next steps. That's what I hope to do. Can I mean, is there any sort of official? Yes, this is a good idea. I need to ask for last call before Montreal.
Actually, the process of last call goes to list, but we do a test in the room. Who's read the doc? All right. Clearly, I don't think it was completely ready for last. Who thinks it's close? Rev away-ish? Okay, well, we just take it through the process, rev from notes, listen to, well, try to decipher and parse Torles's words, and then we can take a list call.
Yeah, Michael Abramson. So the version that is out now, you think is in a pretty good shape, and overall, you don't want to do any major changes to it?
That's my intent. I think it's.
Right.
I think the version that's out now is in decent shape, except I want to fix that.
Yeah, because I don't think I properly read it after you took my, on the life cycle management thingy. So I actually don't think I read it after that. But I'll.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone seen Lenny? He's up next. Oh. Wait, no, you better get this queued up here. You did whatever you did. And then I'll push the button if it doesn't work. Yes. Early in the week, it comes up with all your documents there. You go to the page and you just bring them up in tabs. But then people bounce around and I don't know where that link is. And it should be like the home on the browser there. Actually, it's to from Grandma. I'll push buttons. I'll just change seats. Just leave it there. Leave it there. Yeah, walk over there. I sit there. You take the laptop. I'm not going to steal things from you. I trust you. So sit. I trust you for that.
Okay, so this is an update on some presentations that we've had over the last few IETFs. So it has a catchier term, MTTG, multicast to the grandma. And the idea is we're distinguishing this from typical multicast, which may be in a data center or maybe, walled garden. This is literally it's multicast so ubiquitous that it's available to everyone, even your grandmother. And she might not even, and people don't have to actively try and hack their Unix kernels to get it to work, that it just works and it's available and ubiquitous for everyone and simple. And I'm going to also, distinguish this by saying that it really is here now, more beyond just here's something that's coming and hopefully maybe we'll have something done by next IETF and next. So to illustrate that, it really is here now, I will have, you can watch. This is actually a live stream from the MBone. It really does exist. It's a live multicast stream coming into here in my laptop on the IETF LAN that is not multicast enabled to demonstrate how all this works. It is, yes, using AMT. So first of all, let's talk about motivators. Why would someone want to use multicast over the internet? Just especially in a world where everything's on demand and who cares about multicast? Who cares about live? So first, just some simple facts, and I got these off the internet, and you can, depending on where you look, you can get different numbers. But the bit rate for high definition, Netflix recommends 5 megs per stream. When it comes to 4K, Netflix recommends 25 megs. 8K, the numbers are a little bit varied. I've seen between 80 and 100 megs. VR, the bit rate for VR is astronomical, and I've seen as low as a half a gig to 5.2 gigabits per second. A couple other things to keep in mind. For those who say nobody watches anything live, linear's dead. The average audience of an NFL game is 15 million simultaneous viewers. That's average. That's a typical game. Like the Super Bowl would have about 100 million. But just your typical Sunday game, one of 10 to 12 games going on, has an average of 15 million viewers. If you were, and we don't, but if you were to move all 15 million of those viewers to watching 4K over the internet, again, this is not what people do today. They watch it over their cable systems generally, and there's a smaller subset who watch over the top. But if every viewer watched over the top at 4K, you'd be talking about 375 terabits. Now, the way over the top video works today, and even live streaming, it's unicast. It's all unicast. It's what I would call brute force unicast. It works. It's fine. But the question is, can it keep up with these kinds of numbers at 4K, at 8K, at 15 million simultaneous viewers? Also, we've been going through a cord cutting evolution, and it has generally been people have been cutting the cord and watching movies and things like that on Netflix. But kind of the last frontier of cord cutting is live linear TV. And for those who say, again, nobody watches live linear anymore, it's dead. There's a long answer, but the short answer is sporting events.
Quick note: we might want to turn off the stream just for copyright reasons. I don't know if you have that.
Oh, this is a
Yes,
this is a Creative Commons. That's why it's up. There are no copyright laws violations here today. Well, not right now. Yeah. So, and in the last year or so, things are beginning to spring up. So getting back to the question of live linear, whenever somebody says nobody watches live linear, the answer is sports. People want to watch sports live, generally speaking. And that is kind of the last frontier. You see things like Sling TV, Hulu TV, View, YouTube TV. These are growing in popularity more recently. So live linear is not quite dead yet.
Maybe the one comment also coming to mind is that the currently available TV that you get over streaming unicast is very much, often optimized for the lowest common denominator, like, ADSL2, 16 megabits or so. But then, in many countries, most cities, you even get, VHDL, VDSL, 50 to 100 megabits, or even more so when you do vectoring. And then the question is, okay, why the heck did I pay $40 more for this high-speed internet access? What better video quality do I get? Well, you could get all these better video qualities, but sorry, our calculations show us that our, IPTV unicast streaming system would be way too expensive in supporting these high resolutions, right? So the disjoint between ever better access speeds that you have and, the low quality you get now because you're trying to make it work with unicast. So I think maybe that factor of the access speed is actually faster than what these systems give you if you don't have that.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake Holland, I wanted to say that it depends what service you get. There are services that do try to hit some of the higher bit rates, and that usually they still can serve to the lower bit rates with ABR and such. But those are available and do get used.
Yeah, admittedly, adaptive bitrate is a more unicast-friendly technology than multicast, though it's possible in multicast.
There is a solution in Cable Labs to basically
Join
use
different groups.
multicast with the ABR segments, gets converted back to unicast ABR in the home.
So, just Greg, Chair, we're not arguing the technology here. We can dig.
Yeah.
I mean, geeks do this. I got it. The
Yeah.
point is, there's a shitload of traffic out there. There's a shitload of use cases going, and we don't
Yeah.
have solutions that's going to do this with Buff.
Yes.
Bufoo.
BFU.
BFU. All right.
BFU, yes.
No, BFU, buddy.
Yeah, no, BFU.
BF
Next-
me?
Next slide. You got to push it harder. The other way. See, this is why I wanted to bring the thing. One more.
I'm like bending the entire keyboard down. Dude, there we go.
There we go. Oh, too far.
That's too far. Then I have to wait.
Yeah, we all do. Okay. Come on. We're actually. All right, do this.
We too far now? Too far. That's it. So I just
Try that. Hit that one. That's what we're going to present that. Okay. Another interesting trend that's going on that helps motivate this is what's old is new. Turns out live streaming is actually trending. So we live in a world of inauthenticity, of fake news and corporate messaging that could be ripped straight out of the pages of Orwell. And advertisers have begun to discover that the spontaneous and kind of uneditable nature of live streams are perceived by audiences to be more authentic and actually drive more emotional engagement. Advertisers have found that viewers spend on average, and these are some numbers. You can click on any of these links to see where I got these. That viewers spend 8 times more longer time on live video than on demand on average. They've found that 2/3 of live audience viewers are more likely to make a purchase, and more than half of marketing professionals say they see the best ROI on live video. And recently, live online video has had the greatest increase has had the greatest growth increase of any other online video. And these are, again, motivators. Next slide, just once, and we'll wait. Or hit escape and then go to the next page. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, if only unicast were so simple. So, conclusion. Live linear isn't dead. It's here to stay. IP unicast is well suited to handle pretty much every type of content except multi-destinational traffic. And this is what, multicast was created for, 2.5 decades ago, to solve this very problem. So what went wrong? Well, we don't have to go to the next slide. The people in this room know what went wrong, so I'll skip that part. So let me talk to the solution. I'm going to go step through what we can do about this. We've talked about AMT, we've talked about solutions, and more recently, this is basically an approach that actually gets multicast out there and available for people to watch. So the first step is getting relays out there. What are so that people can actually view this stuff. So actually, let's go through each of these steps.
Public relay?
Yeah. So we'll go through each of these steps and where we are in each of in each of. All right, I'll talk about this as Greg.
Just in this steps.
No, next step. I'm sorry. Step 1. Go to the next step.
Next slide.
The next slide is this next step. Is step 1. Okay. Sorry. All right. That's on me. All right. All right. So, relay deployment. So we started with this about a year ago. We had there's a Thomas Jefferson High School. It's a magnet school in Northern Virginia. They had a 10 gig pipe to I2, which when we speak of the M-bone, you know, the M-bone is the multicast enabled portion of the internet, and the vast majority of that is I2. I2 is pretty much, to my knowledge, fully native multicast enabled, and there's some content out there, and they have quite a bit. The last I checked, they had about 500 autonomous systems on the M-bone that were multicast enabled, which ain't nothing. But when you look at the, you know, I don't know how many are globally routable. It's tens of thousands. It's a small number, but 500 isn't nothing. It's a significant number, and there's a fair amount of content out there. So a student there, a high school student, William Zhang, deployed the first AMT relay on the M-bone. That was a senior project. He actually also to find, all right, you deploy the relay and say, all right, well, what's out there? What multicast content is out there? So he actually ran a Python script to curate all the content on I2. He just went to all the I2 Looking Glass, and he did, to show the multicast route details, looked for every stream that had a greater than 5 packet per second, to filter out 5 packet per second flow, to filter out things like beacons, because we don't care about beacons for the purposes of interesting content. And he found at the time, and he ran this every 20 minutes for about a month, and he found about 40 different groups, about 119 different sources, and he cataloged that. And if you recall, he presented this in London, his results of both the curation as well as the deployment. Since then, we've added a second relay at George Washington University. Thanks to Andrew Gallo, we've been working with him on that. Next slide, step 2. Okay, so you got the relays. What good is a relay if you don't have a gateway? And the gateway implementations we discovered were woefully inadequate. They were very old. Or there were some out there, and they were kind of proprietary. But for the content we were trying to get out, the implementations were woefully inadequate, over 10 to 12 years old. So the goal was, so there was an effort to build a modern AMT gateway implementation, not something that required you to hack it in Unix, but something that would be so easy that that your grandmother could use it, preferably in the browser. We discovered, so an effort was begun by Natalie Landsberg to write an AMT gateway implementation. She first started by looking at in-browser, what could be done, because what could be simpler than having this done in browser. But we discovered quickly that in-browser appears to not be possible today. The browsers have been locked down very significantly for security purposes, and things like UDP and multicast are not very friendly to browsers these days. So she settled on VLC. It would have been great to do it in a browser, couldn't. The next best option was VLC. VLC is very widely deployed. It has probably the widest array of support for the different encodings of video, and it's also great because it's available on all your most popular Mac, Windows, iOS, Android. There are available images for each of these things. Natalie presented her initial implementation in Montreal. And since then, her work has been taken up by Wayne Brasem, who has added some enhancements. Natalie initially submitted a patch to VLC to add this to their mainline support. The VLC folks came back with, looks good, add the following. Wayne took on some of those things. He also added some capabilities. One of the things that's really interesting is relay resiliency. So Jake's done a lot of work on relay discovery and what to do when you have more than one relay. How do you discover them? How do you pick one? we did something interesting. Wayne implemented something really interesting with this, in that we essentially took the two relays, gave them the same fully qualified domain name, and two different A records for the same fully qualified domain name. When you do that, you get back both, and it's up to the application to do something with it. What Wayne did was he receives both of these A records as an ordered list, and he joins one of them, sends the IGMP report through, sets up the tunnel to one of them, sends an IGMP report. If he doesn't get anything back after a second or two, then he joins the next. He builds another tunnel to the next one, sends a report through that, and so forth and so on. So this gives you relay discovery. It gives you relay resiliency. Doesn't give you relay optimality. You're just getting one at random, but you're getting one that works at random, which is better than nothing for now. And it's pretty good for where we are today, which is not optimal, but good enough. Jake.
Hi, this is Jake. Do you know whether your relays have LFLAG for loading reporting?
I don't know that.
Okay, thanks.
Remind me what that is again.
I'll send you a link to the.
Okay. Is that when they're too they're quenched and they say stop sending me, or they?
Yeah, basically, it's
okay.
Yeah.
No, they don't have that. Yeah. So you can. Wayne has submitted the patch, and he's working with the VLC guys. Each time he submits a patch, they say, "This is great. Now do this," and so he's going through that iterative process. But he feels confident that he's getting close to the end. And you can download at this GitHub site. You can download VLC binaries to run on Mac or Windows, and that's what we've got right here. And you can see some streams to try out, and that's what's been running. So this really is happening. This is using AMT to access multicast tunnels on the M-bone, which, if you think about it, think back 15, 20 years, if we'd have said, look, we have multicast available from the M-bone onto the internet, I think this would have blown minds a while back. And this is something that we've been working towards for a long time.
Now we're just all jaded. So
now we're jaded and cynical. And
so,
it's like, yeah,
Jake, again, I want to say that, yeah, I've been using these relays also. When I say I've been running my ingest platform, most of the time I'm connecting to his relays, and just gives you that warm glow of interop,
Yeah, it really does work. And I should also add, Jake was instrumental in helping Natalie get started with the implementation. So Jake was a very significant contributor to this effort.
What's the story of the access policies on the Tolles?
It's being recorded. It's being recorded.
Oh, yeah.
It's not for your
It's
notes.
Torres.
It's for general recording.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So what's kind of the access policy on the relays? Kind of, if more people learn about that and become overloaded,
We'll fix that when it happens.
Yeah, right.
There is none.
We invite those problems.
Yes, we look. So for 20 years we've been worrying about how to get more multicasts out there. We haven't. The problem I look forward to solving is what happens when there's too much.
And so, are there any of these Anycast addresses that we had injected so to reach them, or do you have to know them now, or is it discovery?
Yeah, so that's why we're using DNS. They are. We created a domain name m2icast.net. I think it's multicast to internetcast.net, and it's relay.m2icast.net. And the goal is, as we add more relays, we'll just add more A records for them. Why do that instead of the global Anycast address, you'd say? Because that's what the whole spec had, the global Anycast thing. The global Anycast is, in my mind, kind of a non-starter because it's basically a DOS attack waiting to happen. If anyone can just advertise and say, hey, I'm a relay, then, that's great because anybody can advertise that because I'm a relay. But the problem is anyone can advertise that I'm a relay, and they may not be a relay, or they may not be a functioning relay. So it's a black hole waiting to happen. So, in what draft? Which draft? There is no draft here.
Yeah.
Yes, this is. We're talking about an effort.
So, Greg, as chair, is the intent to turn this into a draft as like informational deployment experience? What's available and tools and pieces?
I think so. There's some collaborative work that I've been, Jake and I have been talking about. I think it tangentially touches on what Dryad is trying to do. And there's different approaches. Yesterday, Tom Pusateri actually gave me a really good idea to handle relay discovery. But for now, we're just using plain old DNS because it's simple and it works, and it gives us redundancy, load balancing, and it works.
Mike, what about private Anycast addresses? I mean, rather than just adding more A records, if it's local.
So here's what I think this is my opinion. This is what I think. I think global Anycast is a non-starter. I think Anycast will be critical. So what I imagine is service provider A will have a bunch of relays and they use one Anycast address. Service provider B will have a bunch of relays and they will use a different Anycast address. And then it's a matter of having a broker, or whether there's an actual broker service or a magical new protocol or just DNS, picks one of those addresses, and some of them happen to be Anycast addresses. That's what I think is the way things will go.
Mike McBride. So first, kudos to you for making this happen. I love that you've been using high school students and college students, and they've been presenting remotely. I just think that's awesome. So good job doing that. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned solutions like YouTube TV and things like that. And I'm one of these guys personally who cut the cord about 10 years ago, but just this year I signed up for YouTube TV, and I think it's pretty cool. So I'm kind of getting back into the game to watch live sports, as you mentioned. So I'm confirming that. So the reason I mentioned that is have you thought any like further long-term, like with regards to those solutions, do you envision productizing this through your company to make this available perhaps to those?
So this is available now. And that's kind of the point, is demonstrating this stuff. All right, so let me get to, there's only a couple minutes, and hopefully this might answer your question, step 3 and step 4. And then that you'll see where we're going with this. So step 3 is a content portal. So if you remember, when William wrote that script, he came up with, here's the 40 multicast groups from these, and 119 different sources. Let's take that, and, it's a text file right now. Let's turn that into some kind of magical portal where you can click on each of these things, and it launches VLC, with all the, requisite information for VLC to do what it needs to do. Right now you have to, cut and paste. So rather than doing that, that's kind of the next step, is the multicast portal. Next slide. And then the big thing, this is what can actually be impactful, because up until now it's just kind of a nice little proof of concept, and but off-net sourcing. So right now we have on-net sourcing, which is you've got to be on I2, you've got to be on the MBone to source something. What if I could take Greg's smartphone, right, and start recording something and sending it to some magic server that sits on the MBone. And it could take your unicast stream coming directly from your phone and turns it into a multicast stream that folks could then watch on the MBone natively or off the MBone via AMT, via these gateways. That's off-net sourcing, and that's kind of, when we can get this is kind of the big holy grail, because this can make content that isn't existing on the internet now, today. This is new content, new live, interesting content. That's kind of the next step of where we're headed, and just, looking for folks to help work on this. Next slide. So if anybody here is interested and you want to get involved, first, we'd love to have other people joining the effort. Content is king. The more interesting content we've got right now these are just Creative Commons open sourced content that's out that Andrew is streaming, plus the stuff that's on the MBone. But if anybody has interesting content that they want to get out on the MBone, we'd love to have it. Further development of VLC, I think we're converging on most of what we need in VLC. But the next big thing is an in-browser implementation. And speaking with Jake, I know this is something that's he has some grand visions for that. There's the portal that I talked about, step 3. Adding more relays. Adding relays is easy. You know, it's like one line of config on a router if it supports it that's already there. So and then off-net sourcing. Those are the big things. Yes.
Can you go back to the slide?
Which one?
This one. This is still multicast, right?
Yes.
So I just want to be that guy. So I'm just interested in the address of the relay to watch from home, right? So
yes.
What? Because
okay. Next, go 2 slides from now.
Yeah, okay.
Here's the answer to your question.
Okay.
Next slide. Here's the references. So you can find all the information that you're looking for. This great GitHub link has the builds for AMT, for VLC builds for both Mac and Windows, and it also has all the information that you might want to know about the relays, so you can start using those relays. Yes, the README includes the IP addresses for the relays.
Actually, Wayne Bressam put it in the Jabber chat. amt-relay.m2icos.net.
Yes,
and the
multicast to internet cast. That's where it comes from.
That makes more sense.
Yes.
162.250.137.254. I'll just show you.
We'll note that in the that'll be noted in the.
But Torlis, you're taking minutes. Write that down.
Yes, yes. So these relays are out there. They're public, and you know they're there to be used. Yes.
Michael Abramson again. So did I understand correctly that you were not talking about using a well-known prefix that anyone can announce for Anycast?
We're not using the one that is defined in the spec for now.
Because we tried this with 64, and it was an unmitigated disaster. Don't do that. It doesn't work.
Okay.
People will put up relays.
Which that is the using the global address.
So having anyone set up a relay that is announced everywhere doesn't work. People set up relays on 10 meg overloaded machines that it just doesn't work. It's just, you can't do it. So 6RD was actually deployable because then you use provider space for the same function.
Yeah.
And this works because now you're talking to a specific instance or a specific organization that's maintaining those relays. So I would say, okay, you can try to put this.
No, but he's not.
Don't.
He's not. We've moved on.
So that was
good to note. It broke and everywhere else. Good.
That was my suspicion, and I appreciate you confirming my suspicion that would have been a bad idea. So that's why we didn't do it, and I'm glad.
What's the highest quality stream I can get? I now have a 300 megabit at home, so I'm just.
Well, if you help us with the portal, then you can find it.
All right.
Yeah. So that's it. Any other comments? We'd love to have folks. Go to this previous slide to this. Okay. If you're interested in any of this, I can be reliably found in the bar at late at night here tonight. So come see me if you want to get involved. But in the meantime, try it out, check it out, use it, and that's it. And okay, with that, anybody else? So I guess we're Mbone D is. Yeah, I got it. Yep. Cool. Well, let's get that code back. Regent Baumgartner. Yeah. All right. See everybody in Montreal. Thank you.
So you can use my in that automatically find my. Tell me about your